Gender discrimination or sexism, a term that appeared in the mid-20th century, is a belief or attitude that one sex is inferior, less capable, and less valuable than the other. The term is mostly used to refer to male more dominant than female. We are all influenced by gender. Gender norms have led to the division of different roles in societies, families, business, or politics. Tell us what is appropriate for girls and for boys, women and men to do in our society. Gender discrimination forces each person to shape themselves into existing stereotypes. For example, men must speak loud needs and not show weakness. Women need gentleness and grace. Gender discrimination can be expressed through behavior, words, attitudes, traditions, even law and social policies. Any gender can be a victim of sexist ideology. However, in society, women are recognized as the most affected group. Why women be deprived from the things men can do? Is this because of their small physique or because of culture and social norm? From history, man is considered as the first sex and the woman as the second. Men are the only privileged gender to get an education and work outside the home. Women remain at their homes and just become a mother and wife and often be deprived from the things men can do. Therefore, girls and women are often less valued and have lower social status. Sexism is expressed in legal status, politics, education, work, families, sexual problems, and so on. In traditional Eastern societies, such as China, Japan, Vietnam, men have the right to marry 5 wives, 7 concubines, but women do not. And currently, in most countries of the world, women have lower average incomes than men, despite some legislative efforts being made to close this gap. The 5 types of sexism below will also explain to you why women are treated more unfairly, and you can also be a victim of these 5 types of discrimination. The first is hostile sexism. Hostile sexism is hate for a particular sex. According to the Washington Post, hostile sexism comes from the belief that women want to control men. Supporters of this idea argue that when women gain, men will suffer. In their view, men have more privilege than women and other sex. Manifestations of hostile sexism are quite diverse. It can be looked down on for female abilities, female objectification, sexual harassment. And the second is benevolent sexism. Benevolent sexism comes from the way societies perceive traditional gender roles. Accordingly, women are said to have abilities that are superior to men, such as gentleness and courage. At the same time, they are also associated with some sensitive personality, such as fragile, needing protection from men. Benevolent sexism creates a feeling of praise, but unintentionally forces women into a role model of weakness. The third is ambivalent sexism. This concept is combined benevolent sexism with hostile sexism. With benevolent sexism thoughts, women are protected by men, but on the contrary must promote their traditional roles as a good mother. Hostile sexism contributes to protect the rules of gender roles in society. The fourth is institutional sexism. This is systemic gender discrimination. Gender discrimination at this time appears in large agencies and organizations. Institutional sexism is also present in fields such as politics, economics, education. The most typical example is in labor laws and policies that are disadvantageous to women and transgender people. If working in the above environments, is it difficult for women or transgender people to work as senior manager or have lower salaries than their peers? The 5E interlined sexism. When a person is raised in an environment that is gender biased, which does not encourage breakthrough, they will gradually form barriers to themselves. This equals internalized sexism. Should men be the only gender to get more privilege? In the last century, many studies have shown that women's brains are not as good as men's, preventing women from studying science as well as men. This prejudice has greatly affected the way women see themselves. The results of the above study were later rejected. Another competency test conducted in 67 countries confirmed that men and women's brain function is similar. Women are no worse than men and vice versa. Another example, in my country Vietnam, many generations prefer to have a son rather than a daughter. They think that the son will continue to perpetuate family lineage, and the daughter who later gets married will belong to the husband's family. They also think that the boy is more privileged in societies. This thought has caused a lot of serious problems, such as pressure when there is no son, family violence, in which pressure on the wife to get pregnant and then multiple abortions until a son is born, is one of the most terrible forms of family violence. This greatly damages the physical, mental, and emotional health of women. It also makes the girls think they have low value and are not respected when their parents want son, not themselves, when then they may self-hate.
Racial discrimination is found in many countries of the world. So, what do you know about it? Let me tell you. Racial discrimination is any discrimination or hatred against any individual on the basis of their skin color or racial or ethnic origin. At times, people make a joke of because of their looks. Sometimes, people are even excluded from some groups or activities because of their origins, such as refusing to do business with, socialize with, or share resources with people of a certain group. There are so many types of racial discrimination, but here are the four main types of racial discrimination. It is direct discrimination, indirect discrimination, harassment, and victimization. Direct discrimination happens when someone treats you worse than another person in a similar situation because of your race. Indirect discrimination is different from the first type. This happens when an organization has a particular policy or way of working that puts people of your racial group at a disadvantage. Sometimes, indirect race discrimination can be permitted if the organization or employer is able to show that there is a good reason for the discrimination. This is known as objective justification. So, what about harassment? It occurs when someone makes you feel humiliated, offended or degraded. And the last one is victimization. This is when you are treated badly because you have made a complaint of race-related discrimination under the Equality Act. Not only that, it can also occur if you are supporting someone who has made a complaint of race-related discrimination. So where does racial discrimination can actually happen? Racial discrimination can be seen anywhere. It can happen in neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, shops, or on public transport, and even on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you know what? The statistics also show that one of the places where the problem exists or manifests is in the workplace. In the Race Relations in Canada 2019 survey, 40% of the person who witnessed racial discrimination witnessed it in the workplace, and 38% of those who personally experienced racial discrimination also experienced it in the workplace. Can you imagine it? That's a really huge number that makes me shocked, to be honest. Let me tell you a story that I have heard before about racial discrimination in Vietnam. It's about an English center that is trying to look for an English teacher, and then two men come there to apply for the job. One is Vietnamese and the other is Belgian. And of course, we all know the result, right? Is that the Belgian got the job just because he has an European look, and even though the Vietnamese one has a higher degree and better teaching skills than the Belgian. But it doesn't matter. It's really unfair that the Vietnamese one cannot be accepted because he has an Asian look, and everybody thinks that his English isn't as good as the Belgian one. That story is just a normal one. There are so many worse stories that happen, such as an Asian or a black man getting beaten up by white people and leading to staying in the hospital for 1 week. That's it. Speechless. I cannot even say a word about it.
We now have decades of research showing that when people are chronically treated differently, unfairly or badly, it can have effects ranging from low self-esteem to higher risks for developing disorder related to stress such as anxiety and depression. And then discrimination and mental health are connected in many ways. Experiences of discrimination not only cause distress in the moment but can also lead to mental health issues that become more severe with each experience. These experiences are more pronounced when discrimination is experienced repeatedly, leading to increased depressive symptoms, poorer physical health, and more chronic illness, possibly through the activation of stress response system or changes in health behavior. During and immediately after experiencing discriminations, the fight or flight nervous system response may be activated. The responses can include anxiety or stress, a faster heartbeat, sweating, nausea, and racing thoughts. People can also experience sadness, anger, and have a lower sense of self-worth and confidence. Over time, the cumulative effect of racism can cause chronic stress and heightened stress response, poor overall mental health, and physical health issues. Experiencing racism can contribute or lead to symptoms of depression, anxiety, and PTSD. It can also cause hypertension and other cardiovascular problems, relationship difficulty, trouble with school or work performance, and an overall reduced sense of well-being leading to suicidal thoughts. Stress can elevate blood pressure and weaken the immune system, which in turn raise the risk of developing long-term health conditions. Research has found that discrimination is linked to higher rates of smoking, alcohol use, drug use, and unhealthful eating habits. Another study found that unfair treatment of people of color has a significant consequential effect on sleep and physiological functioning in midlife. Fear of racism is harmful, and that it can undermine good mental health characteristics such as resilience, hope, and motivation. But all the negative effects of discrimination will disappear when you, me, us join hands in being the world's gender.
We may be different in race or gender or other characteristics, but underneath it all,
we are born with equal dignity.
We all live in the same planet.
We breathe the same air.
my blood has the same color as yours.
We are all one humanity.
So stop discriminating against each other.
And stop watching from the sidelines.
Keeping quiet is not an option.
Speak up.
Take action.
Speak up, take action.